In this lesson, we're going to talk about unit conversions. We are talking about converting one unit to another unit. So, for instance, if you're looking at your yardstick, which is what this is, all right, and if I tell you it's 1 foot, then you know it's 12 inches. If you say 2 feet, well, 2 feet is 24 inches. So that's a unit, that's a conversion. So when we say the word conversion, that's what we're talking about. Completely changing one set of units to another set of units. And for those of you taking the high set, this is going to be your formula sheet. Of course, mine is in yellow. Yours won't be in yellow. But you can see on the right side of your formula sheet, you have a whole list of conversions. Now, in this lesson, we are going to talk about conversions. We are only going to be talking about a few right here with length. But the thing is, if you know how to do one conversion, say feet to inches, well, you can do any conversion. You could convert any of these in the list. So we're learning the method more than we are just trying to memorize something. There's no need to memorize this because you'll be given this on your test. So remember that, remember when we talked about proportions, that proportions are two equal ratios. Now, may need to get your note card out on that. But we're going to use proportions to make conversions. And if you'll recall with proportions, we would write line equals line. Two equal ratios, we would represent our ratios as a fraction. They would be equal, would be missing something, and we would have to solve it. Now, please note, you have to write your units here. I encourage you to do that when we did proportions. If you do not write your units, you will get all jumbled up and it'll be very frustrating. Now let's write just a few series of steps on how to solve this on your note card. So get your note card out and write along with me. These are your notes and we're going to use these to solve these. The first step, of course, is to read the problem. I always tell you to read the problem. You have to decide what you're working with. Well, if you're working with conversions, you've decided that. Then you want to write your line equals line. So that's this, setting yourself up for two ratios. Then, number 3, you need to fill out your first ratio. I say first ratio, but your complete ratio or your ratio with units. Number 4, we're going to use our conversion sheet from the units that we were given to decide what we need to use here. So if they want to know how many inches or in how many feet, in so many feet, then we need to use this conversion. So we're going to use our formula sheet to decide what we need to put on the other side. And in order to use that, we need to transfer our units over. I should have said that first. So transfer your units over. And then you're going to use your formula sheet to fill in your numbers. Now let's just do one, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about here. I didn't explain that very well. But let's just say you're looking at 6 yards equals blank feet. So for those of you who are following along with a packet, I am using your packet for customary length units for perimeter, and you're on page 64. All right. And this is the example. Now we're not going to use their setup, we're going to use our own setup. So we see that we're going from yards to feet. That is a complete change in units. Like, it's not a mixture of units. I just want to go all the way from yards completely to feet. And that's important to note, because in our next videos, we're going to talk about a different scenario where it's not just a complete transfer of units. So once you see that this is what you're looking at and you recognize that it's going to be a conversion, we want to write line equals line. That's just how we set it up, a proportion. Now, what I like to do to fill out my ratio is I take my problem and make it my ratio. 6 yards equals, we don't know how many feet, so X feet. And I put the X under there to represent that. Remember, the units, zoop, take them straight across. Don't even hesitate. So that's yards and feet. And please use your standard. You're supposed to know these abbreviations, so get in the habit of using the right abbreviation for that. Now, you need yards to feet, do you not? Get your handy dandy formula sheet out, go find yards to feet. You'll see the first one has feet, but it doesn't have yards. It matches inches. That can't be the one we want. The next one is yards and feet there. Doesn't matter the order that they're in, it just matters that you have yards and feet present. Now, we want to go put yards from the formula sheet, whatever yards was, the number, onto our spot, which was 1 on the formula sheet. And it's 3 feet, so we need to put where we have feet, we put 3. And see, if you keep your units written, there's no question about where to put stuff. Now, I don't know if you remember back from proportion, I taught you to draw your arrow that represent multiplication. So you should be writing along with me. Now, just watch the video, write your stuff down. And then, do you recall that we circled the third number? And that'll be what we'll use to divide. So 6 times 3 is 18, divided by 1, just use your calculator. So how many feet are you going to have? 18 feet, and that's our answer. Now I'm going to work a couple with you on the next video, couple of samples.